Good evening, everybody. We are live. Hello, hello, hello. So, got a special guest tonight. We're going to be talking about the struggle for justice for Richard Allen. And yes, Richard Allen's part of the Delphi murders. He's actually right now the only suspect in the Delphi murders that's been accused at this point. If you guys are not aware, the Delphi murders are the murders of two girls out in Delphi, Indiana, out in the woods. I know we talked about this a little bit before, but in case you're new to that, this is back in 2017. The girls were out, and they were out actually probably around this time of the year, and they were out in the woods. They were out in a nature preserve, and they went missing. And eventually, they were found in the woods. They were dead. And since then, it has been an ongoing struggle for the police to figure out what was going on. The case went cold for many, many years until 2022. At that point, their investigation narrowed down onto Richard Allen. And Richard Allen is the guy we've seen him. We've talked about him quite a bit so far. We had the one hearing back in October where the judge said, "Oh, the attorneys quit." And then we had the Supreme Court hearing that we listened to and watched where his attorneys tried to fight back and say, no, the judge is being hinky with her rules. And we also remember later that day, the Supreme Court of Indiana said, yes, the judge violated Richard Allen's rights to counsel. And now, since his attorneys have been back, things have literally, we covered it last night. Things are imploding, and they're imploding at a very fast pace. So we're gonna get on that real quick here. Our guest is waiting. I just wanted to see who got first. It's always important. J Rock. If you ain't first, you're last. Congratulations on being first. That's a very timely first with it being number one as well. That's a big emphasis. So I'll allow it. And then Unhung Hero for $2. Can almost set your watch to it. Says, I'm gonna come. Well, please don't come. Don't come. Let me see here. You guys are talking about I should be the judge. Yeah, I wouldn't be a good judge. I appreciate that, guys. Costco parking lot romance. We can ask Cara about this if she's seen it too. Did we watch the four-person of the Jennifer Crumbley trial? Well, I'm not going to speak for Peter Tragos. He can, his comments are his comments, but I was not impressed when she was talking. But remember, I tell you guys, your jury's going to be full of normies. So that's what normies are: random people in the community. And Iconoclast says, this is why they'll never let me be judge. 100%. I will not be allowed to be a judge. I would never get elected. Let's see here. Where are you guys? I just want to catch everything real quick. Critter. Hello, Critter. How you doing? Long time no see. Good to see you again. And let's just catching up. I think we're all set. Guys, if you do have questions for Cara or me, please, put them out there. If I'm not trying to just, grift for the sake of grifting, but if you do super chat, they do tend to show up a little easier. They are more noticeable. Without further ado, though, I think we're going to oh, hold on. Why is Rumble not working? I guess Rumble's not working tonight. So, guys, sorry, Ram, no Rumble. Rumble's gonna rumble. So, without much further ado, though, I want to introduce our guest. Our guest is an attorney in the state of Indiana. She does a lot of post-conviction work, which means work after somebody has been convicted, and that doesn't necessarily just mean appellate work, but there's things that are past your appeal. Then those are, we can walk into that subject a little bit. But she is an attorney. She was involved in Richard Allen's writs of Mandamus before the Indiana Supreme Court. And our guest is Cara Wieneke. And I want to say hello to Cara. Hi, Cara.
Hello, everyone.
So I know I kind of gave you a little bit of a very quick overview there of what you do, but if you are an attorney in the state of Indiana, you focus on primarily post-conviction work, correct?
Appeals and post-conviction, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. And you mind just kind of explain to everybody what post-conviction necessarily means outside the context of an appeal?
So everybody knows what a trial is. Most people know what the appeal is, which is where you're correcting errors that the court made, that you're saying the court made. The post-conviction kind of attacks the fairness of the proceeding itself. So you're looking at, was your attorney effective? Did he or she represent you well? Is there new evidence to bring in? So if any of you have watched Making a Murderer, most of that process that Stephen Avery has been going through that series, that's post-conviction, where you can bring in new information into the record, make your arguments. So that's a lot of what I do too.
Do you do a lot of habeas corpus petitions as well, or do you not do those?
I do none. I know
Okay.
just enough to make sure I don't hopefully screw anything up for the habeas lawyer, but a federal court has never been comfortable for me. I've been there one time. It's a whole different, it's a mystery to me. I really like state court. Yeah.
Yes. If you guys aren't aware, habeas corpus petition, that is a typical post-conviction relief option that people pursue. And that's a whole separate process up through to the Supreme Court where you try to challenge everything. So they do happen. And I do agree with her. That is a world unto itself. There are attorneys who truly specialize in it because there is so much, there's so much that goes wrong in those.
Yes.
I've been told those are not something just you can get into on your own. So,
but when you get a win, it's huge because each time you take a step, your chances of winning are smaller and smaller. So by the time you're at that point, if you're getting wins, that's pretty good.
Yes. And then I know also another typical post-conviction motion is times if there's new evidence, things have been found, or newly discovered issues in a trial or in a case. So those do happen, not very common, and those are also ones where when you win big.
Right.
But most of the time, those I'm sure you probably explained to people, you're getting in, the lottery has better odds in a lot of these situations. So
I tell them to expect to lose, hope to win, but it's very difficult. I think in Indiana, maybe 5 to 10% of them that are litigated win. So it's a very small number.
yes. Oh, good. Also, guys, Rumble is up now. I don't know what happened, but it's finally working. So for all you guys who want Rumble, Rumble does exist. So you also in this situation though, you did this isn't even, I think maybe I'm not sure where you'd want to consider this with Richard Allen, but you ended up being involved in the writs of mandamus for Richard Allen. And I guess, could you explain to us a little bit how you got involved in his case? Did he happen to find out who you were, or did his family, or I guess who kind of contacted you, or how'd you come about it?
Well, when the Franks memo came out, I wasn't really following the case that much. A little bit in the news, but not much. But when the Franks memo came out, it kind of spread through the community quickly, like, hey, you got to read this. It wasn't our typical motion. And so I started reading it. And then I had caught it when it was still up on the docket, but it was pulled off the docket. And being an appellate attorney, the docket's like the gold standard. It's your Bible. When it was pulled off the docket, I was like, okay, that wasn't handled well. That's not the way we do it in Indiana. And so I started talking to a colleague, Maggie, who was on the first original action about this. And Maggie's really into the rules, helped draft a lot of them. So she knows them well. So I was like, can you do this? This isn't right. So we started kind of following. Well, we let it go for a little bit. And then when Brad had filed some motions and they were taken off the docket or stricken or something.
When you say Brad, you're referring to Brad Rosie,
Brad
right?
Rosie, yeah. When he had filed, something had happened at the 19th hearing. We were all watching, expecting a hearing. Court TV broke in from the Maya Kowalski trial, big deal. So we were all tuned in and
so were we.
Yeah, no hearing took place really. That was weird. And so then after that, there was a flurry of motions where we got some more information. And then when some of the motions were taken off the docket, that's when Maggie and I were like, we've got to file something. Because then we realized, we started looking through the whole thing. and realized there were problems with the docket all the way back, almost to the beginning. And so we decided, this is an issue. We think we can bring an original action. Let's try it. And so we actually reached out to Mr. Allen and to trial counsel to let them know, hey, we think that this needs to be corrected. And part of it was because if you looked at it, I mean, yes, there were protective order and a gag order, but pulling filings off, and we later found out, I didn't even know this, it's still to this day, I don't believe they're up. There's the Frank's memo that I don't know that if it's been added back or not, but that was there. We know it was filed. There were also thousands of pages of exhibits that should have been attached to the memo on the docket that were not. Now people say, well, that's okay. The judge has them. Why does anybody else need them? Because if usually the trial attorney isn't the appellate attorney. So if I were coming onto this case, knew nothing about it, and I had the appeal, I would have no clue that anything was even attached to the motion. And that's a huge deal for the appeal because the appellate attorney has to know what's been filed. So that's sort of how I started to get involved.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool that you saw this and you're just, something's not right, and you were able to get involved. And I do some appeals myself, and yes, when you have the appeal, most of the time, and I don't know in your situation, but I do a lot of I get appointed to do appeals. I usually don't get too many private appeals, so I don't know this guy. I mean, I'll talk to him a little bit, and maybe I'll get the attorney who was on it will give me a phone call and give me a run through, and he'll email me some of the discovery. But when you're reading the transcript, that's all you have, and you might look online and read the docket entries. But yeah, that's all I know to know things exist. So yeah, whatever I can pull offline, that's all I have.
Right.
And and that is, and believe it or not, you guys, when you do an appeal, part of the appeal process is the clerk of court submits the entire record. They transmit it to the court because they might need to review it. And if there's bits and pieces of it missing, well, the Court of Appeals won't know what's not there if they have no, you don't know what's not there if you never knew it was there in the first place. And yeah, I think for me, seeing that was really weird because that doesn't happen here in Ohio. The judges don't, the docket is, I mean, I've messed up and put things on the docket that, oops, that needs to get sealed, or that, that's really, it's hard to fix those problems. But trying to thinking a clerk of court would go out there and like remove something for me or do me a favor, like that's never going to happen. So I was amazed by that. Like I started to get the feeling of like, okay, well, I guess there's some mess ups, or, maybe there's just something weird I didn't understand fully. But as we got going and the judge basically says, I'm kicking these guys off. And then we find out, well, we had a phone call that was never documented. And then we had this weird little struggle session in our chambers. And I'm just, yeah, I really started to get the idea these guys weren't joking, that this is not how we do things. And I could say that even here in Ohio, like this is not how any of this works or should work. And we have it set up so it doesn't do this. And I will say, just ultimately at this point, I can say I am truly amazed this is happening the way it's happening.
We all are.
And I can only imagine you guys are too. Yeah, this is like, this is almost like a boss hog was a judge. Like, I'm going to do whatever I want. And it's, people, judge, I hear it all the time. Oh, judges are corrupt. They do this, they do that. People like to think everything is some massive conspiracy, or it's like what they saw when they were watching Netflix. And this is actually one of the times where it's kind of working out that way. You can say, listen, the system isn't rigged. It's not crooked. This isn't what it looks like. But like, while behind you, everything is on fire and falling apart. It's like, but it is looking like that.
We started this with just the issue with the docket. And then at some point after that, I never thought that that there would be an actual removal of counsel. You probably know most of the time it's your client asking for you to be removed,
or myself just asking to leave.
Yeah. Usually that's what prompts us. It's never where everybody's like, we want to stay in this relationship. We like each other. This is working out, and have the judge kind of step in and remove. Only in conflicts of interest have I ever seen it. But so when that happened on the 31st, then, I was like, okay, we're going to have to do something, because, we didn't really know that. We were concerned it was going to set a pretty bad precedent in Indiana, because it's just not something that we've ever encountered before. And to have suddenly judges be able to remove an attorney, even when the client doesn't want to. I mean, that's just something that we've never had to deal with before. But the idea of filing another original action, I can't remember, but I almost thought the first one was still pending in front of them when we filed the second. And our Supreme Court disfavors these. They don't want them to be used. They look like they're end runs around the process. They don't like them. And so when we filed, we were thinking, oh gosh, they're not going to be happy to see us again up here. But sometimes you got to do that.
Oh no, I agree. Yeah, you were left with no choice. And it's funny you say it's an end run. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of that happening right now.
Yeah.
I that said, though, I do have the feeling you're going to be writing more of these coming up in the future, or at the very least, running this up the chain. And but yes, so long story short, the writ of mandamus was granted. They heard it. Your colleague, I think he did a very good job up there arguing. I will say I thought it was very interesting. The judge's attorney, almost had to try to say the Sixth Amendment. Yeah, don't worry about that little guy. And your Supreme Court's like, but it's the Sixth Amendment. That's kind of a big deal.
He did. In my opinion, I've been in that situation before.
Yes.
And
so you did a good job.
Yeah. Because sometimes, you're dealt the hand you're given, and you do the best that you can. And I thought he made the strongest argument he had. So I understand. And honestly, we left there and we couldn't really tell what the court was going to do. We kind of had an idea, but we weren't sure. So I imagine he left feeling the same way.
Were you there actually at the hearing?
I was. Yeah, you probably couldn't see me. I was sitting there. So my job was to watch the faces of the justices, to see grimaces, reactions, and then to kind of nudge my co-counsel if there was something that, like, I wrote a couple little notes, if there's something that he probably need to clarify. But
okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I don't know. It seemed like they did pretty good. Actually, hold on. This is an interesting thing here. SD Trekkie Girl saying, isn't she waiving attorney-client privilege by talking about this? That's a good question, but she's not talking about anything she's talked about to Richard Allen. She's just saying what we did in court, and court's on the record. When she talks about handing notes, it's to the other attorney that was arguing.
Right. So Mr. Allen wasn't there.
Yeah. That's a really good question, though. I think thank you for asking that. That was actually a really good one. Now, yeah, I was really surprised because I was sitting here, we covered it, watched it, and then all of a sudden they said, "Oh, we're going to do it." And yeah, and I don't think people, and I was probably a little over ecstatic when I saw the initial ruling. That is a massive rebuke of what the judge did, that the Supreme Court's like, actually, no, they're back on the case. I think personally that they actually accepted at least one of them, at least to me.
Well, what's interesting is it's a majority and not a unanimous. So we don't know if it was a 3-2, a 4-1. So we're kind of anxious to see, but yeah, we were happy. That was obviously what we wanted. I think they took a very measured approach, very narrow remedy to give us what they felt that we were entitled to, but not more than we were entitled to. So, I think it was exactly what after we left the argument, we kind of thought that's what they were going to do. So, I'm interested to see what their written decision says, though. Kind of waiting on that.
as am I, because I'm, and this is going to kind of roll into what happened today with Judge Gull. But yes, I'm sure what they're going to say in there is probably not everything Judge Gull thought was going to happen today. And I guess we'll start off with there was a motion to recuse that was filed, a motion to disqualify, and I covered it last night. And I assume you probably had a chance to read it already because it's been a couple of days. When I covered it, I don't know if this is your opinion, because I know you know these two. You know these guys. I don't. So when you talk about them in their first names, I'm like, I just know them by their. I know them by their last names. But they sign these, and as I was talking about I think yes, here, this, because we went through it last night. We went through the whole thing, and I mean they were very. Normally, when you try to recuse a judge, you're kind of careful about what you say, because if you lose and the judge denies it, well, now you have to make sure this judge isn't mad at you because you're worried that could create an issue. These guys didn't hold back, and I thought they brought the fire in this motion. They didn't hold back, and I understand they don't have to hold back because she's already screwing things up and screwing Richard Allen over. So how much worse can it get, really? But at the end, I thought it was just really impressive when they do when you do signatures. Normally, I point out when you do signatures, you usually stick between the lines, like between the signature line and the certification paragraph. These guys are just, basically they just said F you, and when they signed it. And I kind of feel that's how I feel the same way.
People have said that. I don't know if that's how they sign their names. I don't know if that's like
to me, it seems like they're enthusiastic, like they're fired up, like I'm authoritatively signing this. So I think it's really cool. Like they're not holding back on that.
A lot of people think it's crazy that in Indiana we let judges decide their own whether they are biased or not.
That happens here in Ohio too.
Yeah, and I don't know what your opinion is. It works effectively well. Usually I find almost judges will remove themselves even when I don't think they necessarily would need to, where they think there may be a conflict that I don't necessarily see. So it actually works quite well. It sounds weird, but it works well.
Well, normally it works well because most judges are very upfront, and just like most attorneys, even if you think there might be an issue, you'd say, hey, I'm sure if you had a case and you're like, hey, judge, this is something I just learned. Do you think this is an issue?
Right.
And then the judge's like, yeah, don't worry about it. And you're like, okay, cool. I didn't think it was either, but I asked. Most judges are very upfront about that. I had a case where the judge came up and said, look, before we get started, I represented this guy's dad for a long, long time back when I was private. I represented him, and then now I'm here dealing with his kid, and I think I actually did the divorce and custody proceeding for this kid. And does anybody have a problem with that? And I didn't think particularly that was a conflict of interest here, and thankfully the guy didn't have like it was like some low-level drug possession, so I was like, it's not like it's the murder or anything.
Right.
But yes, I looked at my client. I said, I talked with him privately, and I said, what do you think about this? Do you have concerns? And he also said, even though I'm bringing it up today, he said, if we come back for a pretrial and there is a problem, he said, I'm happy to get out of the way. But I guess I'll say this because I know you are in the state of Indiana, but I'll say this because I'm not, and I'm not under the jurisdiction of the Indiana Supreme Court. That's what ethical people do.
Here's the thing, though. People have to remember, as they say, but then doesn't that let a judge go rogue? That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Well, but the trial court is never the last word on most things. And so, if they're not happy with a decision, you can take it to the next court. And so, that's what I tell people. There is a check on that power. You go up to the next court. So, no, judges don't generally go rogue.
And we do have from Judge Gull, she did make a ruling, which when you told me about this, I looked it up and I kind of chuckled because I thought she was joking, but she actually says this, and it's done as an entry, so we don't get to. There's actually no, and that's the thing. I assume you guys can
There was
have
an order, but it said
yeah.
exactly this.
Yeah.
Just an
So
order form.
so she said having the defendant's verified motion to disqualify and the defendant's affidavit and the certificate of Richard Allen's attorneys under advisement. And notice she didn't even bother to make the state reply, but she just looked at those on their own and said, I now deny these motions to recuse and disqualify without hearing, as the Indiana Supreme Court unanimously denied the previous request, which and this is where I know she's not listening to this, but Judge Gull, I don't think that's what they meant. And I'm sure if you were to ask them right now, they would say that's not what we were thinking.
We don't know why they denied our, because we put it in as a request for relief. It wasn't like a freestanding claim. So we don't know why they denied. Like I said today on Twitter, they denied the request for a speedy trial too, but that doesn't mean Mr. Allen doesn't have
is
a right
not entitled to it.
Trial.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and I kind of get the feeling, and I don't think it's wrong to say that is not as pressing as an issue, because as long as Richard Allen has his attorneys, they can go back and file all this stuff. And if Judge Gull denies it, they can go to the your courts of appeal, and then finally, if that doesn't work, they can go to the Supreme Court of Indiana. I have the feeling I hope to God that's what they're saying, and not just that Judge Gull has acted without staying, and she stands resolute like the Rock of Gibraltar. Like, I hope they don't say that, because
I think they're going to say, or I think the reason that they did it that way, they think it should be handled in the trial court. They're very deferential to trial courts doing what they should be doing, letting them handle the issues. They don't want to be sort of micromanaging them. And so,
yeah, it's very much we will only get involved if we have to, but you guys can handle this. And I think that's ultimately what they will say. I mean, that's because now you've got your attorneys back. You can go file all your motions and have a fun time.
It's interesting because no written decision has been out yet. So we don't know if somehow there will be something that addresses this in some way, maybe, indirectly. I don't know.
But it's a very, I think she has to be careful, because if the court comes out like we're thinking, that pretty much makes her argument. I'd argue that's kind of embarrassing, because then she completely jumped to the wrong conclusion instead of the logical conclusion, like the Occam's razor of conclusions, that it's just follow the process. Because the court did mention that a lot in their oral arguments. Why don't we just follow the process? We have a process. That even the justices were mentioning that. And yes, I think that's correct. It'd be nice if we all want the court to just come in and, snip and do the, cut in and do that. But then once you start doing that, they start doing it all the time. And then it doesn't become the rule of law, and it becomes, everybody comes in. They don't want everybody knocking on their door like they're like a little kid asking for help. And I understand that for their standpoint, and also would be very inconsistent. Yes. And what do you think of the whole subpoena incident? I don't know if you were the issue with the prisoner being brought for the hearing, and then she tells the sheriff and the Indiana Department of Corrections, don't worry about bringing him.
Yeah, if I understand right, the DOC was going to extract him from the cell. They have a cell extraction process.
Yes.
Not want to show. That was something that we addressed, I think, in the second original action, but we addressed it somewhat. We didn't know what to make that, because that was sort of a side issue. But I do know one of the reasons I think that she listed was that they had misled or made false statements or something in their motion to transfer. And I think their position was, we had a witness that was going to back those statements, but you didn't make him be here for us.
Yes.
You know, I've never had that happen before. Yeah, I've had
Mhm.
defendants who in court proceedings refuse to show up to their own court proceeding, but I've not had this situation where they've been subpoenaed.
Yes.
And
Oh, and I have two. I have two, and those are so much fun, and they're the worst when it's the morning of trial, and
when they do it.
yeah, he'll come up, but he's not dressing in the clothes he bought him,
Right.
and I'm like, the judge brings him up, and he's standing there in the jumpsuit, and you're like, oh god.
I assume they usually make a record and
Oh
say,
yes,
you know what you're doing, that
yes.
kind of thing. But here, there really was no record to be made, and I
Mhm.
don't know what happened at that hearing. We didn't have a transcript or anything, so I don't know if
Sure.
that was addressed. But as, hey, here, where's our witness type of thing. I don't know,
Mhm.
but
Well, and the funny thing is, we would have a hearing, we'd have a record, but somebody decided, this was self-induced issues. It's not that we don't have a record because things happened all weird. It's because Judge Gull decided not to have a record. But having a record would be really nice in these situations because, once again, I'll say this because I'm not in Indiana. Messing with the witness like that, you'd almost call that like tampering a little bit. I'm sure Nick McClellan would consider that if I were to do that and interfere with a subpoena for a party, especially like one of his witnesses. I'm sure he'd be sending the police around to investigate that as a possible crime. Just apparently it's okay. A judge, an officer of the court can tell other people, don't worry about that subpoena anymore.
well, it's
Because
interesting because we don't usually let prisoners decide, if they're going to show up to court
yeah,
or not. I mean, and I think the DOC was like, they were going to be fine with it. They deal with unruly prisoners all the time.
yes, yeah, and that's the thing. She, if I had if I told a party in front of her court, don't worry about that subpoena on another case, I'm sure she would demand to have me come in there and show cause. Why are you telling people to defy orders in this court? But for her to do that, is just, um, yeah, for her to do something she would probably lose her mind if any of us did in her courtroom. I think just shows not necessarily to play on her name, but just the gall of her to do that.
Well, and if I understand, I think the concern was he would show up and
Mhm.
not testify. I mean,
If that happens, that happens.
right, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Because they
mean,
traveled all the way there, if I understand, to get him.
mhm.
So,
Well, imagine if you kept Richard Allen a little closer, this wouldn't have been an issue. You know?
now he's even farther away.
Yeah, and once again, that is as I was one of my jobs I had as a kid, that's a you problem, not a me problem. So, yeah, like I said, to me that would seem like you're kind of tampering with witnesses in a very critical trial, and then you lambaste them for not having the evidence ready that you kept from showing up.
If I remember, they did not raise that as an issue for disqualification, I don't think. Right?
They actually did. They brought it
Is
up
it a
as
motion?
let me see here. Is it in the motion
It's been a
or
few days since I read it.
yeah, hold on here.
Maybe they did mention it.
Yes, they did. They did. Hold on. They
Okay.
have it here.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I read it last night. I reacted to it live, so I was there was a lot of oh boys in it. But yes, the court's own action, the references of the falsehoods were surrounding the fact she told the court on the same day she instructed jail staff to stand down and not transport a subpoenaed witness. So once again, this judge, it's self-inflicted wounds.
Here's the thing. This is why, I mean, we asked for the relief that we did in the second action, even though, we knew it was asking a lot, but we really felt, I mean, this is exactly what we were worried about. There's no winning for her though, at this point, right? if she were to rule everything in favor of the defense, then there would be people saying she's only doing this to not look like, she's biased. But if she rules, even if she rules rightly on anything against the defense, you've got people who are going to say it's because of a bias. And that's what we argued in our action. There's no, she can't win at this point. Anything she does is going to be, is going to appear like as if there's a bias either way. And so it's a no-win situation. That's the hard part.
Well, it is a no-win situation, but the funny part is there are, and sorry, it's actually in this one here. In this one here, the judge has some really great things. She has a code of judicial conduct she could have looked through. She had, I guess there are tools and guidance available for her, and it's like she's winging it, and now she has to react, and now she's reacting to this and reacting to that and reacting to that. And, I'm not saying she's part of the Odinist or she's, her and McClellan are out there drinking Bud Lights and grilling steaks. I just think she has, and it's, judges act like judges because some judges like being judged. I mean, the black robe-itis thing is a real thing. And I get that. And I've also heard this is basically kind of how she does stuff out in Allen County. A lot of she just rules by motions. She doesn't grant a lot of motions. I guess that's how things are out there. And I think she's realizing that the rest of Indiana is like, I don't necessarily know if I like this. And I guess I'll say it. I don't think she's malicious. I think it's more of this gross negligence and incompetence she keeps railing on about. I mean, that's a self-report to me, I think, at some point. She keeps citing it. And it's like, let's hold up the mirror, Medusa. Like, I mean, I don't know what she, like I said, I'll say that so I could say it all day long. Because I don't know. And I've said this on a couple of the shows I've been on. I don't know what her reasoning is ultimately, but if you were to make her sit down and explain it, I have a feeling it's going to be extremely stupid at the end of the day.
I had hoped that the denial, if there was going to be one on the motion to disqualify, would have some explanation, because I think, people would be open to that, to hearing if she, if there are reasons that she doesn't think that it should be granted. Not to hold a hearing on that is also interesting. We don't have a lot of recusal motions. Either a judge will recuse him or herself without even asking, because as you point out, they already know that they have a conflict or they think they do. But most of the time there's a hearing held, particularly if you've got these sort of, it was interesting because the week after our oral argument, I had another one on a different case. And then the one after mine was all on a change of judge in quadruple cases going on in another county where a judge was not willing to recuse. And so it does happen, but I think even in that case, the judge gave the lawyers a hearing to put on evidence to say, here's what we think. So to summarily deny it is unusual. Maybe she was relying on the Supreme Court's order. I just didn't read the order that way. Well, we don't know.
Yeah, it's just once. Well, and that's and once again, though, this is the issue of building a record.
Right.
If you build out a record, people don't have to guess. We don't have to ponder. The judge has here, and the judge putting that response together would be the record. Right now, we just have like a sentence. And her sentence of saying, well, the Indiana Supreme Court said blah, blah, blah. Well, and when you go back and read what the Indiana Supreme Court has only said so far, it's only like one sentence. We're not removing her.
Right.
They don't say why. So she's completely speculating as to their reasoning. And, it's speculation built upon speculation, and that helps nobody at this point.
It would be interesting, too, if they issued a decision that said that, we said no because we believe that this matter needs to be heard by the trial court. Then what do we do at that point?
Well,
you've got this denial already.
well, and that's where I think she's just like I said, I think she's reacting because she doesn't know what to do. And now she's going to have a lot of, if as I think you're right. And I would like to think if I was on the court, this is how I'd say it too. We've got a appeals process. We've got a normal process for this. Do it that way. But now if she tries to do anything else, it's egg on her face. It's massive. It's to say, oh gosh, I guess I was completely wrong.
Yeah, I don't think
I
she'll do
yeah.
that. No.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, if that happens, I could see her. That would be completely embarrassing. You're banking on a statement, and it turns out you're completely way off the mark. I don't think that bodes well for Richard Allen then in the future, because it's one thing to be kind of bumbling your way through something, but after a while, if you start getting embarrassed on a national level, people don't, she knows that's out there, and she knows that people are looking at this. She knows people are thinking, "Oh my gosh, what is she doing?" Um, I'm sure she knows this. I'm sure she knows what's going on out there. So I assume at some point it's gonna, that slider is going from the, well, she means well, to, we've got a problem. And she knows it's a problem, and she doesn't care that it's a problem, because she can't back down at this point. And yeah, this is where, honestly, I think the best thing for her is just to pull the handles and eject. Get out now while the getting's good. But that looks bad for her too. But I get that. But you're limiting the bleeding, because it's not going to get any better for her. There's never going to be a point now, even for me, and I'll try to be honest and give her a fair shake, where I'm going to say, oh, this totally makes sense after she's acted like this. I don't see how the public would either.
I
And
I think though, if there had been a hearing and there had been a lengthy decision, written decision on a denial, I don't know, maybe some people would have at least said, okay. I think it's just the quickness of everything happening, and especially this week. I mean, we've had stuff filed almost every day now. It's
mhm.
And again, I know Mark and we talked about this quite a bit, that we don't have to put blame or anything. The problem is going to be if they all get back on the case and they're back in court. This is irreparable at this point. I don't see how you're ever going to erase that appearance of bias at this point. But,
Well, that's what I mean. I mean,
yeah.
I'm going to be very. I at this point, I can, I don't think there's a way back now. Once you start doing this, where, even if she could have written a lengthy opinion, and I maybe could handle that, but the state never responded, and she just on her own just had booted it out of there. I liken this to when a defendant who's in prison writes out a motion to, like, get a new trial, withdraw their plea, and they file it, and it's a jailhouse motion. It gets to the judge, and the judge just goes, boop, kicks it out. Doesn't even the prosecutor didn't even have a chance to respond yet, and already, like, I dismissed it outright. and having been in a prosecutor's office before when that's happened, you're like, well, I didn't get a chance to respond yet. And one time I actually had written out a lengthy thing, and I had wasted like 2 or 3 days on it. I didn't know it had been dismissed. Yeah, it happens, but this is, as much as I don't like that when it happens, this is far more, I'd argue. I mean, they're all serious, but this is a pretrial motion on a double murder in a highly contentious case that, the eyes of the world are upon you. They've been upon you, and now you're just like, nope. I mean,
Sometimes I think looking at it outside
mhm,
in, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, it's just a double murder.
mhm,
We have double murders all the time, that kind of thing. I've heard
mhm,
that from a lot of different angles, different people. And so I don't know if a lot of the people who are in the trenches of this case really, all of us out here in this space understand,
mhm,
but I don't know if they really realize how much people are watching. And some people
mhm,
are really well versed on this case. they know it probably as well as the lawyers based on what they can look at.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not sure that we've ever had a case of that. I mean, you
Mhm.
know, in my lifetime, O.J. Simpson obviously was the case that we
Yeah.
all watched, but I don't even remember it being like this. Not
Mhm.
this sort of scrutiny. Maybe it was.
Well, and I guess to be fair, you kind of fall into this too. When you were writing these motions, did you think that there were going to be people on the internet wanted to talk to you about your involvement in this case? And you're just like, I just wrote a motion. It wasn't that big a
Oh,
deal. And
I wondered because of LawTube, you know,
okay,
the
but
community of LawTube, but no, I didn't. I was more surprised. There were people who sent me things that were, you know, timelines, and they had been following things that I didn't even know about this case.
oh,
They had very
really?
detailed information. Yeah, yeah. So
Oh God, I
some of
hate to
it
see
was
your
very
email
helpful, you
inbox.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
no, I just don't think people, you know, really, and that's the thing, you know, part of it I think is just that, you know, you're in the system, cases just move the way they move, and you get into a rhythm. And so sometimes I think it's hard when you're in a rhythm to realize that there's a case that feels different. I even have attorneys who say this. I don't know why everybody's focused on that case. I have cases that are just as interesting. I get it. I do. I think my clients' cases are fascinating, but I don't know why this one has, you know, captured the attention, but it has, and I think we have to acknowledge it's not a normal case. So, you know, we got to break out of that rhythm of just, you know, doing everything like it's always been done type of thing.
Oh, I agree. And I guess the other thing to say though is when people are like, oh, it's just a double murder. Yes, and Terry v. Ohio was just a guy with a gun.
Right.
And,
Right.
Matt v. Ohio was just Don King allegedly pissing off the mafia when they were running numbers,
Right.
which, that's
And
how they
then the
all
Frank
start.
memo kind of, for
Yeah.
people who had been following, were like, this isn't just a normal case.
Hmm.
Then we get that and we're like, holy crap, this may not be just your routine double murder, you know. I don't know. So I just thought that was an inflection point of pretty much everything about this case, was when sort of some of our eyes were open to, oh, there's a whole lot going on we don't know about and behind the scenes. So
Yes. And I guess, I don't know did you see the motions that were filed today about the spoliation of the evidence?
I did.
Hmm.
That was surprising.
Yeah, and if you guys aren't aware, I'm not gonna break it down right now, but two of the major suspects that Richard Allen's defense was likely going to throw involvement on, and these were the Odinists. Yes, they were interviewed. It was recorded, and now those recordings are gone. Just poof. Don't know where they're at. Oops. And the state, through the prosecutor, they've known about this for years now. It's 2017. They've known about it for 6 years. And then only once all of this stuff happened and Rozzy and Baldwin started raising issues, the prosecutor says, well, I think these guys need to get disqualified. And then he says, oh, by the way, I don't have discovery for you on these things. It's gone. And as much as I want to just think the prosecutor, this is just a Yahoo, this is, I mean, that is extremely questionable conduct, in my opinion. That this stuff is missing, and now you're filing motions you're talking about disqualifying the attorneys. Uh, you've had officers who've committed perjury, and you're worried about them poisoning things, and oh, they're being, they're ruining it. They people saw the murder photos. It's like you're hiding evidence. I worry about what you're doing first, because that's not like we're talking about the scale of things of like oopsie poopsies here. One of these is really bad. One of these isn't that big a deal.
Yeah,
I
that one, I didn't even know what to make of that. Apparently, there were some search warrants sought out that also
Mhm.
we don't know if had been served or not.
Yeah.
Um, that's
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting going forward, and also I think it's very funny. Just the last two things I really wanted to kind of drill upon with Judge Gull, where she says there were like factual inaccuracies about what was happening at the prison. That her two attorneys that she appointed from her neighborhood are like, well, actually, Judge, this is all kind of happening, and I don't know. I read through that motion where they found the guy with the tattoos on his face, and to be fair, I know with clients who have tattoos on their face, but if you would have told me there's a guy who running around with some Norse tattoos on his face, I immediately I was like, I know what he's gonna look like, and I was not disappointed in the slightest.
Somebody dug up a TikTok where he actually got the tattoo.
Oh wow!
He videotaped himself getting it. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Well,
he's pretty proud of it. Which, again, that motion was a sort of a shock too, because and I thought it was interesting because a lot of the stuff that they were told by Wabash Valley is not true, and so it was even worse, I think, than they even thought it was in terms of the treatment. So if I understand though, that motion's out there kind of hanging. I don't know if there's going to be a hearing on that or not.
I think it's set for hearing. But I think it's funny, the state, when they responded, they got these nice big color photos of supposedly where he was sitting. Yeah. And I'm thinking, wow, I don't think the defense was allowed to bring in cameras. Like, how did we get these photos?
And that, I noticed that too. Not only did he get pictures of the door, so somebody took pictures, I assume, for him at the DOC. They let him see surveillance video of the attorneys entering, what they were carrying, things like that. When Mark and I were representing Mr. Allen, we called to be able to just talk to him, and we wanted to know why he had been moved, and nobody would tell us because they told us we were not the attorneys on the criminal case. We were on a different case. We couldn't get any information about him hardly at all. We were able to speak to him, but we weren't able to get any information. But the prosecutor makes a phone call and boom. A lot of people don't know they've got, if I assume that all the calls are monitored too. I mean, the prosecutor is allowed to listen to phone calls that are monitored. In some counties, they have like some sort of system that alerts them when one of their defendants is talking to somebody. And, they have a lot of access to things that we just don't necessarily have. So to see the pictures, I thought it was interesting that's when I read the description that he was talking through a food tray, I was like, oh, that can't be right. Sure enough.
I thought it was an exaggeration too. Yeah.
The picture made it worse.
Yeah. And I will say, I hope this doesn't ruin your rapport with me, but yes, I was an assistant prosecutor for a while, but there were times where if we had a case and the guy was in jail and, he'd been there for about a month, I could call up the detective on it and it's like, hey, can you get me a copy of all the calls he's made? And the detective's like, I'm already a step ahead of you. I already burned them. And here's the ones he actually talks about stuff. And you know what he gets to do? He just walks in the office at the jail, boop, 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 done, burns it. And whereas when you try to talk to the officers involved in a case as a defense attorney, and eventually they will answer your phone, but they're talking to you like I would talk to them. It's very, I mean, yes, the government's very friendly with the government at the end of the day.
But it wasn't just interesting, the motion that they filed, but then that after they withdrew, one of them went on and did a few interviews, and a lot of what he said, it seemed like they had their own Frank's memo or motion ready to go. They believed that the other attorneys' motions had merit. That was a pretty big deal too, for them to say that after the fact. So,
yeah, no, and I think that's I think that says a lot when the judge tries to make all these, basically she calls them liars. And then, and I mentioned this to you before we came on, but the issue, she repeatedly referred to their violations of the professional rules of responsibility, which is a big deal, because when you make that allegation, in Indiana, and I think pretty much in every state, you have an obligation to report that. So if I know, if I'm on a case with you and I'm against you and I know you're doing something wrong, or even if I'm like co-counsel and I know you're doing something wrong, I have an obligation to report that. And if I don't report it, I'm in trouble for not reporting it if I knew about it. And for the judge to go run around saying these guys are breaking the rules and I the idea then, I mean, if she says that, and she doesn't specifically say which rules they've broken either, which I think is very problematic for her to make allegations like that. Um, but I also understand you don't necessarily want to call her bluff and say, okay, fine, tell me which ones, because she'll pick some. But I think that there needs to be somebody who needs to stand up and say, hey, you realize you're now violating the rules of professional conduct by not, you keep talking about what you're going to do, but you never do anything about it. That you should be having a discipline, like you're running afoul of disciplinary action potentially by making these allegations and then not reporting them, because she should have to report them and she's not. And I have a feeling that's probably going to go, but if especially if this keeps going and she keeps making that claim, I think somebody needs to stand up and say, because I can't do it because I'm not in Indiana, but this is where maybe an Indiana attorney just rolls a little grenade in as a complaint saying, I'm aware of a judge failing to report unethical conduct. You guys should look into this. And if that's a way to get rid of her, that might be a way to get rid of her off the case at some point, is a judge in an ethical mire. Not like that would be a last resort, but I mean, if she's gonna try to run this thing into the ground, I think there's an ultimate way to stop it. But I assume that Rosie and Baldwin have already thought about that and they're probably holding on to it. But
we talked about it with respect to the second original action because we were thinking, could a judge remove counsel if there were ethical violations that the attorney was making? We tried to find case law that supported that, and we didn't find any in Indiana where just an ethical violation alone, because we have a process. If you think an attorney is acting unethically, there's a whole process for that. And usually when something comes up that's questionable with an attorney, the judge will ask the client, this is happening? Is this, do you understand that this is maybe prejudicing you? That sort of thing. And usually that's how these things are handled. We just couldn't find any case law where a judge in Indiana could remove somebody based on ethical, even if we could say these were ethical violations, we couldn't find one where that happened. So we were,
in case you guys were wondering, and I'm sure, Cara, yes, going back to ethics, yay, it's so much fun. It's actually, they have a rule specifically in Indiana, and it's very straightforward what it's about. It's Rule 8.3, reporting professional misconduct. And it says, a lawyer who knows that another lawyer has committed a violation of the rules of conduct that raises a question to that lawyer's honesty, truthfulness, or fitness as a lawyer shall inform the appropriate authority. Which, is that your Supreme Court, or do you have a separate organization?
We have a disciplinary commission, actually. And so, it's like a Rule 8.3 report, I think is sort of how they refer to it. But yeah, you have to, if you know of misconduct or you think somebody is acting improperly, because we're meant to police each other, because, we know that lawyers, I mean, they play a very unique role. So we've got to maintain certain ethics, or else, it's disastrous.
Yeah. And to be fair, when you guys look at the rules of professional conduct, they pretty much all focus around honesty, trustworthiness, or fitness of the attorney. So there really isn't a violation of the rules of conduct you can do where it doesn't really fall into this. I mean, as far as I can think of off the top of my head, maybe other than like advertising, but that I would still argue you probably, if you know they're doing something wrong, you have to report it.
I know that, especially in this case, there's a lot of people thinking that lawyers are just throwing statements into their motions, that it's, not true. Yeah. Again, though, lawyers aren't doing that. At least I've
Yeah.
never encountered that, because we are under an ethical obligation to be honest. It's called
Oh,
candor
yeah.
to the tribunal. You can't just
Hmm.
say something to say it. You have to have a good faith belief that, there's some evidence to back it up. That can be your client's statement. It can
Hmm.
be something like that, but you can't just throw something out there and see if it sticks. You've got to have
Yeah.
some support for it.
And that's the thing. Like, Richard Allen is not worth, Brad Rossi's law license. Like, he's not. He's not. Like, he's very important to them, but they are not going to sacrifice their livelihood, their skill for that law license.
Right.
Um, and if, let's say, they did that here, then the other cases they have anywhere else, each judge is going to look at them saying, "Well, are you lying to me too?"
Right.
So yeah, you can't do that. And yes, if your client gives you a cockamamie story, okay, I got to run with what I've got, sure. But you have to pass the straight face test. Like, can I say this with a straight face? And if you can, okay, that's fine. But yes, the idea these guys are just making stuff up is, yeah, it's far from what's happening there. Oh, it's already been an hour. Are you
Yeah.
okay to answer some questions? I don't mean to take up your time. I know you've probably
Yeah.
got like family or other stuff you want to do. So,
Oh, they're probably upstairs on the computer playing games or something.
oh, okay. Well, maybe they're watching.
A
Maybe they're
couple of
watching.
gaming boys I have upstairs.
Oh, okay. So, got some super chats here. So President-elect Phil Swift says, the people that hate you are considered your peers. Well, yeah, there are, yeah. Unhung Hero for $2 says, any experience with the Innocence Project or similar groups?
Yes, I actually, the Big Innocence Project, the New York one, reached
Mhm.
out to me to be local counsel on a case in Elkhart County. And so I agreed. I signed on because, they do great work. So I'm kind of just following their lead, but it's been a lot of fun so far. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. Fingers crossed on that one.
Yeah. There's a lot of good work going on in the
Mhm.
innocence movement. So
Yeah. That's a shame. Or is saying, I don't know if I think you know who that is. That's our mutual acquaintance.
ah,
So, for 4.99 says, do you think Judge Gull really thinks that the Supreme Court of Indiana gave her the green light? Is she for real?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I tend to take judges. I mean, if they put just like attorneys, if they put something in an order or a pleading, I tend to take it as, until I give them the benefit because we are under obligation. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. And then Carrie for 49.99. Thank you very much, Carrie. I appreciate that. Appreciate the support. She says, thank you for coming on Sean's stream. Is there anything we can do to help regarding the case?
I think talking about the case is helpful just because I don't know. I think a lot of the problem early on with this case was it was so, nobody knew anything that was going on, right? It was so secret, everything that was happening. And so a lot of times I think the best way that people can help is just if you're just paying attention and talking about it. Ultimately I say this to folks, the prosecutor, he's representing me and everybody else in Indiana. He's bringing these charges on our behalf. And so we don't just have a privilege of it, we have a right to know what is happening and what he's doing on our behalf. So if you're paying attention, you're talking about it, and just being fair minded, I think, that's about all you can do. I'm sure if if you're one of those people that wants to reach out and, I don't know, send Mr. Allen a letter or wish him well or whatever, I'm sure he would appreciate that too. I don't know if he gets fan mail or hate mail. I really don't know, but um, I know most of my clients appreciate getting mail when they're in because
Yes.
they don't get to, they have tablets now, which helps, but I still think it's expensive. So for them to
Well,
text and things.
that's another way. It's another way somebody can make money off of them. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't make money off the letters really, so they figured
Right.
out how to use the tablets.
Oh, well, they've made the letters so horrible because they think every letter's laced with drugs. And
Or
so,
it's a secret order to murder someone.
yeah, it's a horrible process for the employees to process mail.
Well, I was gonna say, heck, it's even I don't know about in Indiana, but in the past year in Ohio, somebody had, and I think this is hilarious. They had literally just gone to an office supply warehouse or online and just gotten a stamp that said legal mail and was just stamping legal mail and everything.
Yeah.
So now if I want to send legal mail, I have to go online. I have to say, here's my client. I have to then get a control number and I have to put it on all the mail. And then that's what goes in. And I just,
The DOC here was going to do that, and they
mhm,
didn't. I don't know why. Instead, they copy everything so
mhm.
that even if somebody sent something in on paper, the client doesn't get the paper. But we can't use, email or text messages because they're not confidential. So mail's all we have or in person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And then Nick Starro's trial watch. I don't know if you know who Nick is. He is a labor law attorney out in Sweden.
ah,
So for 50 Swedish kroner, thank you, Nick, is saying every time I cover this case, I need emotional support whiskey.
we all do.
Yes, yes. And then Alpha Fox asked this, and we were getting to it. I saw it. I started it, but that's a shame. Says for $4.99. I'm Alpha Fox's sugar mama, and he wants to know: has true crime-itis hindered your job?
You know what? If there's a trial that's going that I want to watch, I will have that day be admin day. I'll do, whatever administrative work I have to do for the business. But yeah, if you're not careful, you can get down a rabbit hole and be down there. I don't know. I have enough interesting cases that I like doing that work too. But every once in a
Yeah.
while.
Well, I didn't know. Well, I think they're also asking, have people tried to like, hey, I can help you. I know information about your. I wonder
Oh,
if that's what they're getting at,
about this case
or just other cases in general.
Not too much. I know this
Okay.
case, a couple people sent things, but we were very careful on the original action that Andy and Brad acted as if they were still under the gag order and the protective order. So they did not. We didn't need to know what discovery there was, what the evidence was. We didn't talk about any of that. So when people send me stuff, that's what's so funny. People will send me things. I have no idea what they're talking about because I didn't follow the case that closely.
Yeah.
So I usually just forward it on to their investigator and say, hey, have you seen this?
Yeah.
Because I just don't know as much as everybody else does. So, yeah.
Send on the investigator. Hey, I don't know if you noticed, but apparently the two victims are dead now.
That was that was about the extent when I first got involved until, I watched the press conference of the charges and then that was
Yeah.
about it until the Franks memo. I didn't really pay much attention.
Yeah, and I mean, when people were telling me about this to start following it, because they, people say like, "Oh, look at this trial, look at that trial, look at this," and a lot of them are like, "Okay, it's very straightforward. The person did it, and there's nothing to it," or it's straightforward and the defendant's kind of a crazy person, so that makes it fun. Like I'd say, like the Waukesha, Daryl Brooks, he made that fun. He made that worthwhile.
He did.
Otherwise, even if it had been a regular defendant taking it to trial, it would have been very boring. But yeah, people are telling me to look at this, and I'm like, okay, great. Like, okay, these two kids, they're dead. It's a cold case. Like, I will say the one thing I will say, and I think Richard Allen's kind of learned his lesson here. Do not go talk to the police. Don't voluntarily go talk to police. Say, "Oh, hey, I got some information for you," or, "Oh, yeah, I have a gun in that caliber. Why do you ask?" Don't.
Nobody learns that
Yes.
lesson.
Yeah, and the thing is, had he not done that, I think they'd be in the same spot they're in now. I think they'd have been in the same spot that they were in before they arrested him, and Richard Allen would be out and about doing whatever it is he would have been doing right now. So,
That actually is pretty common in a lot of cases. I've encountered.
mhm.
Usually, it's the defendant that gets himself in trouble more so
Yeah.
than the police investigation.
Yeah,
So,
And I do agree with Attorney Scremin, though. I think Richard Allen, at this point, I have no reason to believe he's anything other than truly innocent at
Well,
this
we have
point.
that presumption, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
if
just
the
the
trial fell
presumption
today,
aside,
yeah.
the presumption aside, I think he truly is innocent.
I
So,
can't say, I mean, because I wasn't there. I haven't
mhm,
looked at anything. But
mhm,
yeah, it's tough whenever you're looking at because I mean, as soon as you hear about the crime, I automatically think of all the other oh yeah, one person can do this, right? It's
mhm,
just that I just don't have all the facts, but um, it's I'm much more focused on the fact that they've just the craziness of the process. That's something that we
mhm.
almost never get to talk about. We always are usually talking about the facts, and to watch what's been happening with this whole proceeding is almost more, you know, unusual than the facts that have been alleged anyway. I
Yeah.
shouldn't say they're facts. We don't know.
Yeah, the procedure's been more intense than the actual. Yeah, no, I agree. That's been very interesting
Yeah,
that way. Um, Also, Alpha Fox wanted to say you have a very nice desk.
thank you. It's like the only clean room in the house.
Um, okay, Carrie says well, Carrie actually press it. Why is your desk very clean? Because she was going to be on camera. I bet.
No, let me tell you, when your life is kind of, you're doing a lot,
Mhm,
like for me, for some reason, I feel better if I'm organized. If I clean and I'm
mhm.
organized, then I feel like I've got a handle on my to-do list. I don't, but I feel that way.
Okay. Oh, and then oh, hold on, I gotta bring this up as a separate image here.
Uh-oh.
Unhung Hero for $2 says rest in peace, Fort Brooks. And I don't know if you saw the memes about this, but when Daryl Brooks was when he was doing his trial, after a while he started making his box fort
Yes.
and he'd sit behind it.
I got to a point where I started
Mhm.
feeling really bad for him.
Mhm.
And then no, it passed. But oh, that
It
was such an
passed.
awful case. It really was. I mean,
Yeah.
those because I watched a lot of it, and those poor victims their families having to
Mhm.
come up there. I was like, this is awful.
Yeah.
But hey, credit due to United States. I mean, we have a jury system, and he was
Mhm.
allowed to call in witnesses, even if those were witnesses that I would have never called. Um,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
that's the system.
Oh, it is, and it works well. But I will say, I thought some of those witnesses were very good when they said, "Well, I watched you run over the kids in my band group. I know." Like the way a bunch of them responded back, I thought were, those people were actually itching for the opportunity to be
Oh,
up
they
there.
were, but I understood why the prosecutor didn't call them. I
Hmm.
probably wouldn't
Hmm.
either if you didn't need to. Yeah,
Sure, sure.
yeah.
Well, and I would say contrast that with the Jennifer Crumbley trial, where which I don't know if you do you have an opinion on that you'd like to share?
I usually think juries get things right, and so I don't want to say I didn't look at the jury instructions, so I don't know what you had to prove. But
Hmm.
I tend to think just the idea, the precedent of it is worrisome. I don't know. We'll see what they do on appeal. I didn't
Hmm.
watch a lot of it. I watched some of
Oh,
her
okay.
testimony and then the jury questions, and then I just watched the
Yeah.
verdict
Okay.
announced. Yeah. And I did see a picture of the foreman, uh, saw a little clip. So
Yeah, well, it's scary because she talks like she has like fake vampire teeth in,
I
and
did
I'm like,
not notice that, but
when you listen to her talk though, she's
yeah.
talking like she's got like a piece of bread like glued to the roof of her mouth. Like if you have like she has peanut butter mouth really bad when
Oh,
you listen to her talk, and I'm just like, and she's got there's nothing wrong with having the nose ring, but
right.
she's like she's as white as your sweater, and her lipstick is. I was making the joke. She must have put it on listening to the it's like Silence of the Lambs, a song that Buffalo Bob's listening to as he's putting on his lipstick. and is
I
dancing
feel so
around.
old though, because so my kids would say that's probably emo. We used to call it
Yeah.
like goth, you know,
Yeah.
but they would say
Well,
emo. But
yeah.
the kids today, man, they like my oldest, he has a big, like, his hair just sticks up everywhere. And that's
Yeah.
the look. You don't fix your hair, you make it, So I don't know. I don't
Mhm.
know what they're doing today. I'm old, but yeah, God bless her for going on TV and talking about it, though. That
Yeah.
has to be interesting.
Yeah. I will say the one thing I thought, I mean, aside from the precedent it sets, the way, and I disagree with things, maybe the way her attorney did them, but I mean, there were a lot. One of the things I thought, the way they did the jury instructions, there were two separate like theories they could find for
Right.
the manslaughter, which in Ohio, if that was like you can do it under rubric A or rubric B. In Ohio, that would have to be two separate counts because you can't have an alternative set of elements for each offense. It's if you're going to do that, that should be count one and then count two, and then for each victim, there's a count one and a count two, and they let them mash it all together. I just I don't know. This is an easy case for the everything to get abused and wrong because she's not a popular person.
There's like some interesting case
Hmm.
law in Indiana like that, where if you've
Hmm.
got six jurors that went with rubric A, as you
Hmm.
call it, six that went with B, do you really have a unanimous verdict?
Hmm.
But I think our court has generally said as long as they unanimously come to the conclusion that the person's guilty of that offense,
Hmm.
then how you get there isn't necessarily it doesn't have to be unanimous. Maybe that's how Michigan is.
I assume that's probably what they're going to say, and they'll wash their hands of it. But I think that they're going to say it shouldn't have been done that way.
It sounds
That
like the jury was confused a little bit too.
oh,
Whether
they was
the
they
question,
were
yeah, yeah,
well, and also I think some of the questions there, or some of the issues, like Ethan, they weren't going to bring him in. Well, the judge said, "I'm not going to bring him in if he's going to take the fifth." It's like, number one, you don't know if he's going to do that, and number two, she still has the right to confront him, and maybe that's part of the trial strategy is making him go up there and take the fifth.
that,
Um,
yeah. There's an issue in a case I think I'm going to have
mhm,
on that, where the judge said I don't need to bring him in to hear him plead the fifth, but I think the jury does get to hear him say no, I
mhm.
plead the fifth, and then they can draw whatever inference they want from that. They're not supposed to, but I think
From a from a third party, from not the defendant, but the third party. I
right,
mean, you could draw whatever
right.
inference you want from that guy.
But I think
Uh,
you've got to bring them in,
mhm.
and yeah, and let the jury hear it.
Yeah, and I thought the whole allowing like his uh his journal in, so it's all it's all, you can't confront any of it. I mean, it's just a lot of problems, but it's because she's not popular. I also think her attorney may have maybe not done a lot of things right there, but
Did she
she's the
object to that? Do we
there
know?
was it sounds like there's things she objected to, but there's also stuff she didn't. Like, I'm not gonna come. I don't want to like take. I don't want to talk too much crap about her because I'm not Ethlie Bailey myself, and probably wouldn't be in 100 lifetimes. But I feel like there's things she didn't do or could have done, or just stood up and said, screw this. I'm gonna. Although it sounds like there were also a lot of pretrial motions, so a lot of it may have been hashed out. But
Right.
I still would have had a list of all the objections I need to make just to double check that they're on the record. But
I thought it was interesting. Didn't the foreman say it bothered her that the mom was the one who touched the last adult who touched the gun
yeah,
or something?
yeah, which I didn't know there's a hot potato rule as far as.
I thought that was just an interesting thing to point
Mhm,
out. I don't
yeah.
know if that would have swayed me, but
Well, that's the problem is the jurors are, well, you know this, the jurors sometimes focus on the goofiest thing, and it's like, well, she touched the gun last. I'm sure that the prosecutor said, "What? What like yeah," and they would have said, "Okay, cool, yeah, whatever." But at the end of the day, like, I'd love to sit down with her and say, "What why is that important to you?" I'd lo
and
and I
in Michigan, were they allowed to? Was the jury allowed to ask witnesses questions?
No, well, I think they can ask them, but this judge didn't let them do that.
Oh,
So,
oh yeah, we do in Indiana. It's one of my favorite rules because jurors are pretty good at picking up things that.
oh, by right, they have the right to ask questions.
It's it's a rule that the
Okay.
judge, if usually the judge, I think the judge
Mhm.
has to permit it, but the judge almost always does. They'll say, do you, you know, at the end of
Oh,
cross and direct and everything, the judges say, you know, if you have any questions, write it down, and then the parties will look and see if they have any objection, and if not, the judge asks the question. And
mhm.
it's great because juries are pretty good at picking things up that you wouldn't think that they're paying attention to, or that you're worried might go over their head. It actually doesn't. So
Mm.
you can kind of get a feel of where the jury's going based on their questioning.
Well, that's interesting because we don't here in Ohio, it's up to the judges how they want to do it. And I've been in front of judges who, you know, and I try to explain to people the judge gets to control their courtroom completely.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get notepads? Do you not get notepads? You can have a 6-week trial, and the judge says, "I don't want you taking notes." Period.
Oh,
And
wow.
oh yeah, there's some judges like you're not paying attention then, and then somebody goes in the back and they scream, "Well, I wrote it all down, so it must be legit." But I've also had judges, some of them where you can ask questions. Not every judge does. Um, and yeah, that's interesting. I think it should happen more.
Yeah.
And I think believe it or not, I mean, because we say this though, that discovery is meant to be open file, it's meant to be adversarial, but it's to find, like, we're trying to find the truth, we're trying to find the fact. Well, the fact finder, the party we're charging to find this fact, this body of people, they're trying to figure it out. And yeah, if they want to ask questions, well, that's good, because now we're, maybe the defense realizes, okay, well, this isn't looking good for us, but more importantly for the state, the jury doesn't like this, or they don't, they're seeing something, they have questions like, what do we need to prove? Or, there was one time I had a trial, and this is the court where the judge did this. I was like, I had to take a recess, and I went down and talked to my boss. I'm like, they're not buying what we're selling here. Like I remembered all the questions and I wrote them out. I said, what do you want me to do with this? And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I think this is a hint. We should, offer a resolution. And we had the guy, I mean, we offered a resolution, and this was the one they had been asking for, and we offered it and he took it. But yeah, I think it was helpful. The jury was guiding us. The fact finder was telling us how they were feeling, what they were thinking.
Yep.
So I think it offers a lot of, I think it offers a lot of help there.
I think so too.
Hmm. Hold on here. Let's see. What else is anybody? Oh, I would absolutely kill myself as a juror if I couldn't take notes. Yeah, that would be awful.
It would.
Yeah. POV walks with the roving Cyclops for 5 Canadian loonies, or 2.5 toonies. Well, that's how I count Canadian monies in the coins. He says, I predict the state will lie, cheat, and steal its way to a conviction instead of admit their errors or change course. Richard is their only closure or target. I mean, I won't co-sign into all of that, but yes, once they decide you're the bad guy, they're generally not dissuaded from thinking you're the bad guy. Even if you win, they'll just say, I guess we couldn't prove you're the bad guy, but we still think you're the bad guy. At least that's been my experience.
I actually got a woman exonerated from, released from prison for a murder conviction, and her civil attorney after the fact had deposed the prosecutor, and that's what the prosecutor said. It's not that she's innocent. We just can't prove she's guilty, that kind of thing. And so I think, I don't know, law enforcement, they call it tunnel vision when a officer gets tunnel vision and they can only see that client or that defendant.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, I think we're all caught up on the questions here. There's a lot of, you guys are having your own little side discussions here. So, and some of these questions I am not going to ask. So I'm going to leave that alone. Where is? Yeah. So do you have anything else? you'd like to say about this, or anything coming up, or
Well, so
down with the system, or
a motion has been filed after hours, so it should hit the docket tomorrow. People want to check that out. I think it was filed. Yes, it was filed by the defense, so that'll be some fun morning reading, I'm sure, and just see what happens tomorrow. I don't know.
Sounds suspenseful.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look for it when it gets uploaded. So
it's up on Twitter. I saw some copies of it, but I think
it's already up. Oh,
yeah,
I
I
was
think
like,
it's related to the contempt hearing coming up. So yeah, but it's a new lawyer that hasn't entered the fray yet, who's representing Brad and Andy. So it'll be, and he's a very good writer, and he's a habeas attorney. He's one of those rare people that actually knows how to do those. So, and do them well.
Okay. So Mystery Sniper saying, tell her we enjoyed her and we controlled our degeneracy, and if she will come on again.
Definitely.
So yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate you guys for behaving yourself somewhat. That's a shame of saying you have to come on when the Supreme Court opinion comes out. Well, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be asking to talk to you when these all come out. So when that comes out,
we could do the side by side, breaking down each, going through each part of the
opinion.
That could be fun.
So with that being said, Cara, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time. Guys, once again, Cara Wieneke, attorney at law and Esquire, and I'm not sure how you refer to yourself out there on your business cards, but she is out there fighting the good fight in Indiana, helping Richard Allen out already. Hopefully, knock on wood, once is enough, but
let's hope.
Maybe not. Oh, geez, the dogs heard me knock. They think someone's at the door. So, Darcy said, I think that is what I put in your Discord. What did you put in my Discord?
Uh-oh.
I'm a little nervous now to read that. Okay, I don't. Oh, you're talking about locals? Okay, maybe on my locals. Never mind. That's different. Locals is kind of like, it's just like Patreon, except they don't have the same type of rules or the way they handle people and try to censor things. So I'll take a look for that, Darcy. Oh, you guys are. We tried to behave. Kate says, yeah, you were great.
Thank you.
You have a lot of people here happy to. A lot of people are happy you were happy to hear, and they're happy to hear what you say. So once again, Cara, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. If there's anything, and if there's anything we can ever do, I mean, other than just talking, I don't think he's ever going to. Richard Allen's getting anything filed in Ohio, but I'm, I can always saddle up if we need to.
Right.
So,
well, thank you so much.
Oh, actually, this is actually a question here. Nick Starr was saying, is it telling that the court clerk stopped stamping Judge Gull's decisions? I don't think that's an issue because the judge can enter electronic entries.
So and I'm assuming it's maybe different clerks doing it. Some might put that stamp on, some might not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a stamp I don't usually see on orders, but it may be the way Allen County does it. So I kind of figured that was one coming from Allen County clerk, maybe, or staff inputting that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Generally, like, filing guides is the same from place to place to place, but every court might have a different kind of stamp.
Right.
And there are some places, yes, when you do it, it's got the ka-chunk machine where it gives you the stamp with the actual time on it. But I've also been to courthouses, and I'm not in a fairly well-off area, and it's a suburban county, and you give it to the clerk, and she has just a stamper, and it just stamps the date on it. There's no time on it, and that's how they do all their stuff, is just with hand stamps. And you'd think they surely can afford the little machine with the timer and stamp all in one. So it's just everywhere is different, and as long as it's within the rules, that's okay. So, but yeah, I think that's it. Nick, thank you again for another 50 Swedish kroner. Yeah, so that's it. The rest of these are for me, so those aren't for you to read. So I'll read those later. But yeah, thank you very much, Kara. I appreciate it, and have a nice night. If you want to stick
Thank
around, you can.
you.
But I'm sure, yeah, like I said, if you want to take off, more than welcome to. So
Will do. You have a nice night.
thank you. Thank you so much. Hold on here. I'll move you so you can get out there. So hold on here. Wonderful Galaxy says not just states are different, but also courts. Yeah, well, in this situation in Indiana, it's county to county. In Ohio, there's 88 counties, so each county might do things differently. And yeah, when you, like I said, I go from place to place. Um, you can get all kinds of different. I just gotta. Okay. That was just trying to make sure I read that. Um, that's James says beat me harder, Law Daddy. Law Daddy's gonna get the belt, Tilly. Jesus, you guys. Derna says if Ohio and Indiana traded names for a year, no one outside of Ohio and Indiana would notice. Not even Michigan. I would not want to be known as Indiana. I wouldn't want to be called a Hoosier. So no, that would just be ooh. I wouldn't want that. Tilly. Kara, he beats chat. Help us. Help us. He gets very angry. Yes, you guys were very good. Thank you. I appreciate it. I think you guys were very well behaved. I think she enjoyed herself. A name says I just noticed she has a pro gamer chair. Yeah, well I mean, for office chairs, those are some of the better chairs. They're meant for hours and hours and hours of sitting. So yeah, why not use them? Maybe you can find her in a Call of Duty, uh, Modern Warfare 2 lobby, hurling insults like everybody else. Oh, so what else you guys got here? Trying to see. We're happy, Sean's. What? I didn't have a chance. What the fuck is all the pregnant shit again? You guys got. You guys got some pregnancy fetishes out there. Jeez. Need to work on somebody. You guys need to work on that. Get a therapist or something. Yes, you guys can do whatever you want now that she's you guys can do whatever you want now that she's gone. This who we are says maybe Team Fortress 2. No. Oh. So yeah, guys, we are actually all done for tonight on this. I think that was a lot and very interesting. Um And I will say, I think at the end of this, I know she was kind of limited in what she could say because ultimately, yes, Judge Gull's a judge in her state, and she could be. That's why I said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it for you. I'll say these things." Um, yeah, I still think that Judge Gull is an absolute lunatic. I mean, she is. Yeah, either she's just let off her cracker or she's just completely stupid. Now, like I said, we're getting to that slider. That slider's all the way over here on stupid mode. But as she's acting, it feels like she's just like all the way over to contemptuous. So I don't know ultimately what her deal is, but I guess we'll find out together. Bye, Fran saying that was a good interview. Well, thank you. Yes, thank you for constructing the towers now. Thank you for waiting. Although she said she has teenage boys, I'm sure they're building their own towers. It's the Odin cult that's doing it. Yes, yes, the Odin cult. They're showing Odin's spear to the judge. Well, actually, we established they're a bunch of homos, so they're not doing that. They're keeping the spears for themselves. Yes, base gamer mom. Oh, Marilyn Mosby was found guilty on fraud. Ooh, that'll be a good read for tomorrow night. The the give them space to destroy lady. Actually, I think that was her. I don't know. It's hard to tell. They all blend together. That's a while. She was convicted of mortgage fraud. Ooh, that's not good. That's not good for her. Yeah. And she was also convicted of 2 counts of perjury that took place in November. Ooh. Yeah. So yeah, she's gonna have a rough time with that. That's especially that was in federal court here. Hold on, let's see. Yeah, it was in federal court. Oh God. That's mortgage fraud there. Yeah, that's not good for her. So we'll get to that tomorrow. We'll get that tomorrow. Oh, you have the latest Crumbley juror interview. Okay. Um. Oh, yes. Tilly is saying rep your locals. Yes, guys. Yes. While you're here, do you want to talk about locals? That's potentially criminal.locals.com. It's called Only Friends. Guys, we hang out there all the time. There's a lot of fun stuff there, and I've actually been working on something with my lovely producer, and we're gonna start doing basically kind of I'll be hanging out there while I'm doing work. Not legal work, but work for on the channel at times. I'll be on there like editing and just hanging out if you guys want to come hang out with me while I'm working on stuff, and we'll yeah, it'll at least start out like that. So if you guys start seeing things soon, that's what we're doing. So that is over at potentiallycriminal.locals.com. Obviously, we're still doing the Monday show, still doing the Thursday show, and all that fun stuff. Promo code criminal gives you 1 month free. Otherwise, it's $3 a month. You pay for 10 months, you get 2 months free. So we'll see you guys there. But yeah, I am going to start doing that. Let's see how you guys like it. See if that's a neat format. You guys can watch me like get angry and huff and puff when things freeze up or I lose files because there's been more than one video I have lost the file on where I saved it and then the video editor doesn't have it anymore. So there went 5 hours of work. So
I have a question.
oh, hold on.
Who do you like better, Tilly or Charlie? Because apparently there's a competition going on over there. Who do you like better?
I love all my I love all my children equally. Well, Tilly's got a wrench, right?
Yes, Tilly's killing it as a wrench.
Yeah. Well,
But
Tilly and Charlie,
the newer wrench.
yeah. Well, they're both new. They're both trans. I trans them both. I love both of them. You're echoing. They can hear like it's gonna. You're gonna feedback. It's like putting the microphone up to the speaker.
Well,
okay.
I have to give a shout out to both of them because they're both doing amazing.
Okay.
At their job.
So, guys,
the old wrenches weren't.
Congratulations, you guys are being noticed by the feds.
Not that the old wrenches weren't.
Oh, hold on here.
Tilly and Charlie,
Farm Girl Mom says I tried the code, it didn't work. Hold on here. Hold on 1 second.
All right, good job, guys.
I'll hold on 1 second. We'll fix that up. Community admin. No, this is the problem. Now it's like locals and everything. That is a weird thing lately. When I've logged into locals or Rumble, everything bogs down really hard. But here, let's see what I can fix. Payment settings. Community active free. Dashboard. Community tiers. Holy crap, I did it before. Where's it at? Hold on, guys. Trying to get this all set up. Okay, I got Stripe set up. Payments set up left side of the menu. Free trial. Okay. All right, here we go. Free trials. Using promo code criminal and it won't work here. I'll add a new code. I'll add a new code here. We'll try it this way. We'll start it today. All right, so we're gonna try this again, Farm Girl Mom. And we're gonna do sorry, I'm setting this up for you. We'll try it again here. Oh gosh. Okay, so we're gonna use the promo code. This should work now because it looks like it's saying it's active. So Farm Girl, try this promo code right here. I just put it in chat and I'll stop the banner and I'll create a new banner. Farm Girl Mom, try that. Criminal 2024 and see if that works. That should work. I'm not sure why it's not. But yeah, Criminal 2024. Glowy 2024. Furby says you never got your free month. Oh, well, try Criminal 2024. You get your free month. Okay, it worked perfect. Jeez. All right. So guys, we're gonna try. I want to check out this real quick. We'll do the we'll do this lady. Oh my god. Yeah, she doesn't look any better in this. But we'll air it. And then after this, guys, we are gonna do day 19 of Michelle Traconis. It's not even 9 o'clock yet. We're gonna get it done. I just want to stay caught up on it. But also remember, they are now cross-examining one of the guys in the conspiracy for the murder who got immunity. So it's gonna get real good very quickly. So just hang tight in that. I think I promised you guys it was gonna get good. Well, guess what? It got good. So here we go.
The jury foreperson in this first of its kind trial is with us now. Alex, good morning to you. We're not mentioning your last name for your own privacy reasons. I have to say, to have you here, it's a privilege because what we ask jurors to do in this country is really, really difficult. To sit in judgment of their fellow citizen, and that is something that you and your fellow jurors did. What was it like in that courtroom, having that responsibility and deliver?
She still got the nose ring in. Once again, ladies, that does not make you look pretty. That makes you look like livestock. But look, she did her makeup right. Like her lipstick is on all the way. Like she doesn't look like she murders people. But God, she's just a pale woman.
Delivering that verdict yesterday.
There was definitely a wait.
Also her eyebrows are like painted on. Holy shit. Like she just took like the grease pencil and just like smear. It's like it's like I'm opening up the drawing app. It's like I've opened up the drawing app and I'm gonna. It's like the drawing app's open and we're just gonna do the drawing app's open. You're just like rawr, rawr. It's like, hold on, even better now. Rawr. That's way too big. Gotta make it match her eyebrows. Just. She's like, I'm so angry. It's like Trogdor. Oh, let's listen to her wisdom. Her wisdom here.
Wait. I think anytime we entered the courtroom, there was an undeniable weight on us. We all took the responsibility that was put upon us seriously. And I'm just one of 12 that made a very difficult decision.
What was the evidence that swayed you in the end? You said it wasn't an easy decision. This wasn't a
Not
slam dunk.
easy at all. So speaking for myself, I know that each individual juror had their own opinion. This did this for one person, this convinced the other. For me, I just feel like Jennifer didn't separate her son from the gun enough to save those lives that day.
You felt she was the last person known to have had custody.
Yes, this moron got a free plane ride to New York City and a free hotel room.
Of the gun.
Yes.
And then somehow it ends up in his hands.
And I think the responsibility of securing the weapon then falls on her.
What about those text messages or journal entries or things that the jurors saw where it indicated that Ethan had asked for help and that his parents hadn't given him that help?
Hey, Danny, how you doing?
To you?
To me personally, it wasn't as impactful as the evidence of her having the gun. But I know for my fellow jurors that the notebook played a huge part.
Tell me about her testimony. It's Jennifer Crumbley took the stand in her own
Fair
defense.
Skindels and Betty Boop.
What did you make of her on the witness stand?
At the time, I tried to take her as she gave herself. But once we went into deliberation, it became clear that she wasn't a super reliable witness in this case.
Do you think she helped herself on the stand or hurt herself? Would it have been better, in other words, if she hadn't testified at all?
We'll never know.
Yeah.
We'll never know. You could tell us. We could know. Well, how would that have changed things? Well, I don't know. What a fucking idiot answer is that? If something would have been different, that'd change your mind. No. No. What is that?
Talked about her testimony. There was a point where she was asked, would you have done anything differently? And she said she wouldn't have. How did that strike you and the other jurors?
It was repeated.
There we go. Okay. So Danny was saying, how do I draw? You mean like this? Where I can be like, you know. You're talking about with this thing here? Oh, this thing here where she can be like, you know, Ein Reich, ein Volk, ein Führer. We must be one glorious people. Lebensraum for everyone. Crumbley sounds like such a Jewish name to me. She must be She must go sent to the camps. You mean that thing, Danny?
A lot in the deliberation room. I think that it was very upsetting to hear. I think that there are many small things that could have been done to prevent this.
When you went back.
So many small things, so like nothing big. Also, she doesn't have that peanut butter mouth thing anymore. Where it sounds like she had like 8 pounds of peanut butter in her mouth. Maybe she got her vampire dentures fixed.
Into the jury room. You're the jury foreperson.
I am.
Which is a big responsibility. And I should just mention again, there is no manual for jurors.
Yes.
Nobody tells
She's
jurors
got
how
Nick's
to
heat
deliberate.
allergy. It's terminal.
How did you handle it? And how was the jury immediately in agreement, or how did it play out?
So I took it more as a job of
She
facilitation.
votes.
I wanted to make sure that each and every juror, to the best of my ability, was heard and understood and made their point, and we heard their piece. And so that was the role that I took on as the foreperson. It was not immediately unanimous. And
the funny thing is about the Juggalos, they hail from the southern part of Detroit. So that's very funny you say that. Because she's on the wrong side of town for them.
It was my responsibility to hear the concerns of those on either side and construct an argument either way.
Do you feel that the jurors wish they could have heard from Ethan Crumbley himself?
I'm not sure how much that would have helped or hurt.
Alex, thank you so much. For
I'll send you a DM
civil
about
service.
it.
Being a juror is not easy, and this was a very difficult case. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday.
Wait, isn't
at
Al
11
Roker
a.m.
dead?
Eastern, 8 Pacific.
Yeah, I'm the man of LawTube. You got this, and then you got this, and you got boom, guilty. All right. Yeah, Danny, actually, hold on. I'll tell you what this is. It's called Page Marker Draw on Google. It's an actual, you just download it. It's a Chrome extension. So it works. Shannon Smith chose guilty when she chose this vampire clown. Yeah. And I was wondering before, and you guys kept on making comments during stuff about vampire clowns, and I'm like, what the fuck are you guys, what are you guys talking about? And I'm like, I get it now. I get it now. So. Alphas is so proud of that title. Yep, she's a big star now on the big TV. Yeah. She's the pride of Pontiac. Makes a scarier woman, this chick or Mandy. Oh. And J-Rock saying he just looks dead. He's not dead yet. Well, thank you. Oh, hi, Clyde. Hey, Bubba. You want to come here? Hi, buddy. Hi, Bubba. Hey, Bubba. Jeez, you're gonna break your leg. You're caught in the microphone here, buddy. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Move that paw. There you go. There you go. Oh. Jeez. What do you not want up here? Huh? I thought you loved me. You must smell. Do you smell treats? Okay, fine. I guess you're going. Hold on, buddy. Hold on. That's what I get, I guess. You'll now channel your utmost Jigglypuff. Aw. Does it piss you off to think that I could have put Shannon Smith put years into this trial, and then she decided, yes, a dumb fuck like her decides it's based on something retarded. Yes, that does scare him. Like, that would be very frustrating to me. Years and years of work, and then, yeah. Yeah, so. Couldn't Shannon have objected to her being on the jury? Here's the problem, guys. When you're doing jury selection, like I said, you've got this kind of big sheet, and you've got like your post-it notes on it, and there's like 18 names at a time, and you're going through them, and you're trying to keep the 12 in the box. Well, as you start removing people, other people slide into it. And it's kind of like, think about it like bullets in a magazine. As you're shooting, as you're getting rid of those, you're allowed to keep 12 bullets. Okay. Well, as you start pulling bullets out of the magazine, guess what happens? The ones at the bottom start coming up to the top, and maybe you don't really like those ones at the bottom, but you don't like one that's in the 12. Okay. But the ones that are like 13, 14, 15 are worse. So you take sometimes you have to make like a Sophie's choice, and like I'll accept a questionable one over one I think is really dangerous to me. So they might have been stuck with it. I don't know. Who knows what happened? We don't know for sure. Did he get groomed? Yeah, recently. Yes. So. Do you think if Jennifer hadn't overshared with everyone, she may not have been convicted? No. She was going to get convicted no matter what. All those little dead kids and all those dead kids. I mean, it was a show trial. Regardless of what happened, it was a show trial. So. Everybody leave a like. Yeah, thank you, Danny. Hope you're doing well. I know you've been following the Tricunis trial as well. I hope it's getting interesting in your opinion, because I think it really is. I think it's getting good. Sean is pro groomer. I mean, yeah. All right, guys. So, yeah, make sure you sub to Danny on Direct over at Danny on Direct over here at YouTube. She's also on Twitter. And Ashley says, "Oh, and in the Tilly v. Charlie thing, I vote Tilly." Okay. So, okay. Oh, you guys. Oh, okay. Yes, apparently y'all want to write a poll. I'll let y'all write a poll as a group. You guys can write a poll as a community. Just slide it on down it and just a group. And it's a group moment. So do a poll real quick, and then we'll get Michelle going for the trial regarding the death of Jennifer Dulos. I love how they call her Jennifer. Okay. Tilly or Charlie? So here we go. There you go. So you got some options. Tilly or Charlie? Carrie's saying, oh, Carrie for $4.99. Thank you, Carrie. Saying Shannon complained that she was fighting solo. I think that's fucked up. Huh. You know what? I think she said that now once or twice. Yeah, but that's sometimes, I mean, a lot of attorneys, I mean, I fly solo. On a case like this, I think she probably should have had another attorney involved. Yeah, this is a lot to do on your own. I'm sure that's ate up most of her time. I do think that probably did hamper some of her preparation on the case, but I don't know ultimately. Maybe Shannon's really good and her shit's all wired tight, and it's just things went out that way. So, Costco's saying that the court made her split the firm. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the whole story with all that, but maybe it happened like that. I don't know. Maybe. All right, what time is it now? We'll set this for 9 o'clock. All right, guys. So we are going to get started on the Michelle Tricunis thing here pretty quick. But I'm going to let you guys do your voting. Mr. Sniper says, I need to change my vote. I can't vote for Charlie. It moved when I voted help. It moved when I voted. Oh, okay. Forgot to mention the winner of this poll gets banned. So let's see who's winning. That's James says F that. I had a one-witness misdemeanor jury trial next week, and I was going to make my boss sit second, Lamau. No, I agree. I agree. At times, it's like doing the basic stuff is like a handful and a half. It's still a lot. So, yeah, trust me. I feel you. I feel you there. Voting Tilly now. You guys want Tilly to win. Parallaxative. Read my last super chat, Boomer. When did you? God, you guys are like sneaking them in. Oh, I forgot about this one. Yes. Mr. President, Mr. President. A second G has hit the tower. Oh, if you guys ever seen the right stuff where Jeff Goldblum's running down the hallway, it's called Sputnik. It's like a second G is in the air. Oh. I see someone to hold my hand under the desk. That maybe could have worded that a little differently because that's a little awkward. Oh, so we got some people trying to build. How many subs does a loser need to donate to get unbanned? All right, I don't know, guys, but here we're gonna stop. We're gonna end the poll right now. We're gonna end it. Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2. I should have skipped 4 because you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to say 5 because when you're on weapons testing, 5 sounds like fire sometimes. So you skip 5. Anyways, here we go. 2, 1, end poll. With 50 votes. Wow, that's a great participation rate. We have Charlie 15%, Tilly 30%, and running away with the title at 54% Parallax. So congratulations, Parallax. I knew you had it in you all along. You've won the competition without even trying. Oh. Yes, so hold on here. I gotta fix the customization. There we go. All right, guys. So we're gonna head over to Michelle Trakunis. Kimbo says, "Please ban me." I'm not gonna ban you. I'm gonna make you stay. I'm gonna make you suffer. Your existence is pain. No, no, you must suffer more. More suffering. Yes. Just like Bane, you know. No, I shall make you suffer. Yes. Dump us in your new stream. I just did. My dumping. Yes, I'm bukkake-ing myself with you guys. That's what I'm doing. Exactly what I'm doing. I hope that gets clipped. So, all right, guys, I will see you over on. Yes. Instead of being banned, I shall make you a Reddit mod. Yes. One of our skills in the League of Shadows. Is that moment Kimbo realized he was dead and already in hell? Yes. So, all right, guys, I will see you over in the other stream. So let's head on over there.